So welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I think you're in for a treat. My name's Greg Smith, Executive Director of the Florida Literacy Coalition, and it's my pleasure to introduce this session that's going to focus on teaching and learning resources from Literacy Minnesota. This webinar is hosted by FLC and made possible through the support of the Florida Department of Education, Division of Career, Technical, and Adult Education. We'd like to encourage everyone to use the chat box to share resources, tips, ask any questions that you might have of the presenter. I'm joined today by Aisa Hernandez from the Florida Literacy Coalition, and she's going to help to facilitate the Q&A during the session. And if you have any technical questions or issues, please shoot her a direct message or me a direct message, and we'll try to resolve that for you individually. So our presenter today is Theresa Sladek with Literacy Minnesota, and I'm a big fan of the good work that Literacy Minnesota has done over the years. They're sort of a similar type organization to what we do here at FLC in Minnesota, although they also do a lot of direct service, which we don't do. So they're working in their local area, I guess primarily the Minneapolis metro area, Theresa, right?
Yeah.
Where your office is located, but also do a lot of statewide work and in national work. I think they're probably best known outside of Minnesota for their Northstar digital literacy assessment. Some of you may have heard about that, and I know Theresa is going to be touching on that here during this session. But she'll also be talking about a variety of other wonderful resources that they have at Literacy Minnesota. Theresa is the National Partnerships and Northstar Business Specialist at Literacy Minnesota. She wears a number of hats doing various projects there at the state and local and even national level. Prior to that, she worked on developing a statewide training on navigation related to helping adults stay in school. And she's also taught ESL and GED classes. So she has a good firm grounding from a teacher, a practitioner perspective. So welcome, Theresa, and we'll turn it over to you.
Well, thank you for having me here. And I see that there's people from kind of around the country. I saw Massachusetts and Illinois and Florida. So welcome, everyone. Today, as Greg said, we're going to look at many of the resources that Literacy Minnesota has available. I would say 98% of our resources are free, and the other 2% are low cost. So we'll touch on those and how to find them on our webpage and what they consist of and how you might use them. Feel free to chat any questions, as well as if you have ideas of how you might use them or how you are actually using them to share with the group. And I just saw that someone just joined us from Atlanta, so we really are kind of all over the nation. My goal one day, which won't happen today, is to have someone from every single state in a webinar I'm doing. So we'll see if that will ever happen. So first, let me tell you a little bit about, we have California too. Let me tell you a little bit about Literacy Minnesota. We have been around for about 50 years. And as Greg mentioned, we ourselves have 6 schools here in the Twin Cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul. And 5 of those schools really focus on English language learning. We have a large Somali population here in the Twin Cities. Also, in years past, Hmong, there's still a large population of Hmong. Not as many need English language learning anymore. And now we're seeing a lot of Karen coming in, or we were in the previous years. So in our schools, we teach, everything from people who are not literate in any language to people who are trying to get their GED with reading, writing, numeracy. We do citizenship, and then we have digital literacy kind of infused in those classrooms. And then our 6th school is solely digital literacy. And then we do also, and this is to your benefit, provide statewide training in Minnesota to volunteers and teachers who are working with adult literacy. And because of that, we make all of our resources available on our website, and people from all over the country and the world access those resources to use in their teaching. Minnesota has a high volunteer ethic, just in general. In fact, a couple of years ago, if you may remember, the Super Bowl was here in the Twin Cities, and I volunteered for the Super Bowl, which was a really fun experience. But the Super Bowl volunteer organizers said that they encountered a problem here in Minnesota they never had, which is that normally when they have people sign up to be volunteers, only about 45% of those people actually come. Well, of the people in Minnesota who signed up, they had something like 89% come. So they had more volunteers than they actually had positions for. And that's true. We see that also in adult literacy. So we are able to statewide provide a lot of classes to people because of that strong volunteer network. And so that is why Literacy in Minnesota does a lot of training of volunteers, as well as, staff teachers. So we're going to take a deep dive into some of these educational resources. And then nationally, we also do advocacy work, which we'll talk about, and then digital literacy, which we'll talk about. So you can see there, that is our main website. And we can put that in the chat down there, the www.literacyminnesota, but we'll be going to that frequently as we talk. Okay, so, oops. Just gotta get my, okay. So the first thing I want to talk to you about is now, the pandemic has had many negative side effects, but one positive side effect is that now we have people from all over the country, attending webinars. And that's true with the webinars that Literacy Minnesota is doing as well. Normally, or I should say pre-pandemic, all these webinars were done in person. And so it would require the trainer going around the entire state and people coming to the trainings. Well, now we've recorded them and have them, or now we have them offered online, so anyone from around the country and even the world can join. As you can imagine, these webinars, just like this one, are on specific dates at specific times. You have to register in advance, and they are not recorded. So if you miss one, there won't be a recording. However, the topics keep kind of recycling. So if you miss one, you can check the calendar and see when that one might be coming up again. And normally they're given every couple of weeks to every month. Right now, a lot of the topics are focused on remote teaching. And I don't know if you all are still remote teaching, if you are hybrid, if you're thinking of going back or have already gone back in person. But at the moment, a lot of the webinars are about how to do, remote tutoring one-on-one, how to teach math remotely, these kinds of things. But there's also some on conversation and how important that is and how to get that going with your ELL learners. And one of the things that is critical and oftentimes difficult is working with beginning English language learners on building that vocabulary, and where do you start and how do you make it interesting for adults. And so that there's a webinar on that. And then we have done a lot of work around, I myself have done a lot of work around persistence learning and what keeps adults in the classroom. And as a result of that work, encountered a lot of research on how to reduce stress in the classroom, what role does past trauma play in being able to learn or not be able to learn. And so that I don't give those webinars, but that information has been passed to my colleagues. And I myself also have a master's in counseling psychology. So we do know that a lot of times adults' persistence is based on them feeling welcomed and feeling safe, other factors as well, but that's kind of what that webinar is centered around. Because we are hoping that many organizations are going to go back to being in person in the fall, we'll switch from some of those more remote teaching topics to new topics. And there's going to be a focus on helping those students who are American born with fluency, vocabulary, comprehension, how to just in general work with adults, how teaching adults is different than teaching children, for example, and how looking at working with materials like, curriculum, but also lesson planning and things, kind of more along those lines. And then there'll be a new webinar on writing. So I want to show you where all this it lies on the website, so you can just kind of visually see it. We also, as I said, we're hoping that many organizations do go back in person, and we have found ourselves in our schools what a great benefit it is to providing remote classes as well to our students, because it gives, just that extra flexibility where if someone can't come in because of transportation or childcare, or they're working a job at the time of the class, we've had great success in teaching people remotely, and we're going to continue to have kind of a hybrid model, or to offer both actually. And also in our training department feels they can reach so many more people by offering remote trainings, that we're going to continue these live webinars as we go forward in the fall. So let me show you where to find these on our website. So here's that main website that the address was put into the chat. And to find the webinars, you're going to go to above the picture. You can see all these tags here. Go to our services. And then you want to go to, this is a little tricky, you want to go to trainings and workshops. Click on that. And then you scroll down and you're going to go to upcoming trainings and adult tutoring right here under training to tutor adults. And so then you can see what's coming up. So I just kind of wanted to show you how to look at this. So here you would register. You can see if you want to, you say, well, this sounds interesting, but I want to know more about it. You can learn more here. And then you, now since many of you are in different time zones than the central time zone, we have this nice time zone converter because, like, honestly, I'm working with people from, from East Coast all the way to Hawaii. And sometimes I'm trying to remember, okay, who's 2 hours behind me and who's an hour ahead. And so this is really handy. The trainings are all free. All the webinars are free. And you can see that in this one, this is looking at how to get students ready to join a conversation and keep it going, which is, if it's a language that you aren't feeling confident in, can be really hard to do. So you want to keep that going. Once you register, you'll get an acknowledgement of that with the link. And then on the day you just join, just like you did for this. So here are some of those things that I was telling you about. Now there are some that are only open to Minnesota, and they'll say that as far as I know, this Google Meet one is the only one that is in that category. And so you can see that, these are also repeated. The conversation one is in June, it's in July. These remote tutoring 101 are really good for if you're working with people, if you're new to working with people remotely. And again, this is meant more for one-on-one or small groups rather than a class. And so here, if we look at this fluency and vocabulary, again, you can see that is looking to help you build your learners' vocabulary and fluency. All of the webinars do include, they'll have breakout room sessions, and they often have you actively participating. So they're not just lecture style. and that helps you learn it by practicing it and also share with others their experiences. So those are our live webinars. Any questions about those or comments from anyone who's attended one? Okay. So the next thing I want to tell you about are these classroom videos. And these I think are kind of exciting because they are actually videos of actual instructors with their students working as a class, you know, so they have a set class that they've been working with. The video is capturing a certain technique or topic. And so you'll see, like, unrehearsed on the part of the students part anyway, kind of how this flows. And this can really help you see just how other teachers are doing things, help you kind of hone your own teaching skills. All the videos have lesson plans that go with them and any materials that you might need for them. Some of them are really quick, like the classroom activities are maybe 5 minutes. And then the CCRS lessons are about 45 minutes. And then kind of everything in between. So the CCRS is looking at implementing those shifts and how teachers are doing that in their classrooms at all levels. So you'll see it with very low level English language learners. You'll see it with, you know, all the way up to advanced. Pronunciation is what you would expect. Classroom activities are just kind of those topics that are those things that we might all do or have heard about and just showing you how to do them. And the literacy instruction is working with, again, those pre-beginning, beginning learners. So let's take a look at these, where these are. So again, I'm back to our homepage. And I'm going to go now to, if you remember, for the live webinars, we went to our services, but for these pre-made videos, we're going to go to educator resources. And I'm going to go to the first one, our educator resources library. And you can see here, we have a lot of different types of material. The classroom videos are in this far left blue rectangle. And I'm going to click on there. It also has, you have the option if you want to download a video observation form to help you focus on what the video is about and kind of keep track of that in a CCRS kind of way. And then here are the videos. So if we look at the CCRS videos, you can see that it will tell you, you know, what the shift is, what the reading anchors are, what level they are. So it really describes what's going on here. And these, I find these videos to be really compelling and actually really fun to watch, because you see, if you're familiar with CCRS, the College and Career Readiness Standards, you see like the students getting it, and it's exciting. I myself have gone through the CCRS training. So I'm going to randomly pick one to show you a little bit of what it looks like. And we'll have to, I'll show you the video. We'll have to go through some ads a little bit, but just so you can see what this is like. So I would click on that, then you come down here, you can see here are all the lesson plans and the lesson materials that you can download. And then here's a link to the video.
Grammarly helps you work more efficiently, which makes accomplishing your work goals easier.
Okay.
To understand new vocabulary in difficult text. So the text we're going to read today, it's a little difficult, but we're going to work together to understand the words that we don't know. We're going to work to find evidence in the text to help us answer questions. So answering the questions, but also being able to show where did I find that answer in the text. And then finally, we're going to practice talking about the specific details that we see in the text that help us understand the answers to the questions.
So you can see how she's outlining the different shifts and what they're going to be working on. If you watch her, she does nonverbals to describe what's going to, she says talking about. And you can, as you continue to watch, you'll see how the class responds to what she's doing. So it's just really great, way. We often promote going to, or in the past promoted to go see teachers in person and observe them, which is a great thing, but oftentimes that's logistically difficult, either because you have to go to another school or just the time, you're teaching classes and they're teaching classes. So we developed these videos to make that a lot easier to do. Some of the other videos that are on there that I kind of talked about are, oops. Let me show you these. So we have pronunciation, how to do that, videos around many of these things, intonation. There's a lot here. And then some of those activities. So as I was mentioning, like the ball toss, how do you do that? How do you use the exit ticket? Kind of those mainstays of education. And these were the first videos that we made. Again, these are more like 5 minutes, 5-10 minutes long. So really great if you have new teachers coming in, if you have interns, if you have volunteers, or if you just want a refresher on something that you're like, oh, I've never used concentration. What is that? There was a question from Todd in the chat. Are the videos scripted, rehearsed, or live and unrehearsed? And the graphics are great. So I would say that in those CCRS videos, those are the best graphics. They were the last to be produced. And so the team learned a lot about microphones and positioning and cameras. But the instructors knew what they were going to teach, but the classes themselves are live. So you're getting like just honest reactions from students who have not had this class before. Good question. And then the last one down here is this low literacy instruction. So kind of focusing on, again, those beginning language skills. Special routines can often be very important for this, well, for all learners, but especially the beginning learners. All right, so those are the videos. You will be able to see. Unfortunately, it doesn't tell you how long they are until you actually click on it and you see the YouTube, number. But in general, featured activities are about 5 minutes. Pronunciation classes are about 20. I think low literacy instruction is also about 20. And then, as I said, CCRS is more 45 minutes to an hour. These particular, I got a question. These videos don't actually show one-to-one tutoring. They show more classroom tutoring. But we do have a lot of resources for one-on-one tutoring as well. So we'll kind of look through this. I would say for one-on-one tutoring, though, these featured activities here can be very helpful too if you want to think of activities that you might do as a one-on-one tutor with your learners. All right, so let's look at our next kind of material, and these are these instructional support kits, which I think are really awesome myself. So they are centered around a topic like phonics, and they come, I just showed you those activity videos. They come with several activities in this package. Well, I should say in this activity instruction manual. And so they tell you how to use these activities with whatever topic there is. So phonics, for example, and you can use it with whatever, it's not tied to any particular curriculum or what's being read or topic, like, you could be talking about food or clothes or whatever. you can use them with whatever fits into what your instruction is. And a lot of, well, this was initially created for what we thought they'd be used with volunteers. So volunteers were doing breakout groups with, part of the class, or maybe one-on-one tutoring for substitute teachers. So you would have just kind of everything ready to go, and then you could just give it to them. What we found was that many instructors use them themselves as a way just to avoid having to do a lot more prep. I did see a question in the chat about the videos that we just saw, if they're in English or other languages. And that's a great question. At this point, they are only in English, as is, I think, not everything, but most of the things on the website. I'll kind of point out where there is some other languages. So you can see here in this picture, here's one of the activities, or I'm sorry, the support kits. And so what you'll actually get from us, we don't ship these out to you, but what we do is we provide all the instructions, all the worksheets that you would need, and then a list of all the materials that you'd want to gather to put in your kit. And so what those look like, where you can find those and what those look like. Again, I'm on my Educator Resources tab at this Educator Resources library. And I'm going to the ESL Instructional Support Kit right here. These are all free. So you can see that in each kit, it tells you what you need to, you saw in that picture, there were some markers and I think a ball, how to put it together. Some things were laminated on there, so it might suggest that you do that. If you want to do this with volunteers, a way for them to keep a record of what they're doing, how to do the activities, how you might want to expand on the activities, and then all the handouts and supporting material that you would need. So it does require you to, you do have to download them and print them and then put the kits together. But again, it's giving you the instructions for how to do that and everything that should be included in that. And we can take a look at one of them. And so this will ask us, it asks you to basically give your information. To do that, I'm going to say no, but it does ask you if you would like to get tips about teaching literacy. And every month, I believe, they send out kind of a tutor tips that highlights one of those tips that we talked about. And it comes as an email. You can either opt in or opt out, but they're often very informative. So if let's go ahead and submit that. That is for the donation, but I think what happens is it's sent to your email. Then the link with all the things is sent to your email. I saw a question.
Yeah, we have a couple of questions.
Okay. Are there citizenship resources available? Yes. So in the educator resources, if you make sure, one way you can look is if you check by topic and you check citizenship and then search, then you'll get anything related to citizenship. So you can see there is an instructional support kit on citizenship. This was from when we were doing the census. And so here's those 100 questions that test for beginning level learners. So it's nice because here's some videos, several options here. What's nice too is that, that feature that I just showed you where you can search by audience, by topic, by format, and by level. So then if you want to see if you have a particular topic like citizenship, you can see all the resources that pertain to that. So across our array of different types of resources. And then I think there's another, let's see. Someone asked can these kits be modified for remote tutoring? Yes, for sure. You could, instead of printing out the handout, you could, share your screen and have someone go through it with the remote tutor. A lot of the remote tutoring one-on-one webinar goes through how to do those activities remotely instead of in person. And some of the activities won't work, like the ball toss, obviously, but you can definitely modify them. Yeah, you all have great questions. Okay, so we'll go on to our next feature. And these are the teacher training toolkits. So these are great for your beginning instructors, or even if you've been instructing for a while and you just want to review on some of these things. And they'll start out with a short reading, maybe a paragraph to, I think, a page and a half. And then there'll be reflection questions on that reading. And then you'll have a short video, and then there'll be some reflection questions on that. And then once you've gone through that, you'll set a goal for yourself. And once you've achieved that goal, you'll reflect on that process. And then this is intended for instructors of ELL, but again, at all levels. So let's take a look at those. So again, we're in our educator resources, and here they are on the far right. I sometimes have to check my directions there. And so this is, again, showing you, looking at how do you as an instructor give directions. And then you may know the model, the I, we, you method when you're giving instructions. This goes through, again, going through a reading of how to do that, doing some reflection questions on that, watching a video of someone doing it and some reflection questions, and then having you set a goal for yourself of what you might want to change. And so, again, this is something that you enter your information, and then you can, oh, here it is, sorry. The one I did before, it adds as a download to your computer. So we're looking at that phonemic awareness. And here, this was the kit, the pre-made kit. So here it's showing you what you need in your kit, how to make it, how you might use the kit. Here's that tutor log if you want to, track what someone's doing. And then it's giving you some background on what this kit is including, giving you some examples of the tasks, and goes all the way down to these are the activities. So you can then say, today we're going to do 3 of these activities in this kit around this topic. Today we're learning about transportation, whatever. So again, you can use these activities with a variety of different topics, which is actually a great thing to do, because the more your learners recognize the activity, they're not focused so much on doing the activity, but learning, what the activity is about. All right, so let's go back here. And then that teacher training toolkit, I'm gonna show you what that looks like. All right, so ultimately then it gives me, it downloads it onto my computer. I'm going to open it. And so this is, again, here's that reading that talks about the I, we, you method. And then it is telling you how to do it. Telling you about some other things you can do. And then here are those reflection questions. And then it here's, the video, it tells you about the video and what you're gonna look for, and ask you some more questions. And then I'm going to quickly go through this, but then it says, okay, so pick out an activity you want to do in the class, plan out how you're going to do it, and then write about it afterwards. So you have to hold yourself accountable to actually doing it, but it's a good way to keep yourself continually learning, as we often all like to do. So those are the teacher training toolkits. Then we have several other resources in there I want to talk to you about. One are these tutor tips. So I told you about, if you check that box, you can get this monthly tutor tip newsletter. And since we have been providing this training for many, many years, there's now over 300 tutor tips available. And again, they're just short. This is how you might do this. This is how you might think about this. And they're searchable. So if you're quickly looking for something on, I don't know, pronunciation, I think we'll take a look at it. You can find them. We also, because of the pandemic, have quite a few remote tutoring resources just on how to use some of these platforms, some of these common platforms that we're using with our students, like Zoom and WhatsApp and Google Meets, how to get started. And many of you may be pretty proficient in that already, and your learners are as well. I do want to show you when we get there. However, as you have new learners, if you're going to be teaching remotely and you have new learners to Zoom, for example, we do have guides that are written for the learners on how to use Zoom. And this was for a project that Literacy Minnesota did with our local workforce center. And we were giving out free laptops and Wi-Fi. We weren't, but the county was, free laptops and Wi-Fi hotspots. And Literacy Minnesota's part was to provide digital navigation. And that was around partly how to, some people who got the free laptops didn't know how to turn them on or how to charge them. So we would teach them that. And then we also included teaching on Zoom. So this is why these guides were made. But we didn't really know the digital literacy skills of who would get these guides. So we made them very IKEA-like, a lot of pictures, not many words. We weren't sure what people's reading levels would be. And then we also made them in 5 different languages. So, back to your question of, is there anything else in other languages? And these, there are, and we picked the languages that we see in St. Paul, which we had English, Spanish, Hmong, Karen, and Somali. So I'll show you what those look like, but they may be of interest if you have new learners joining you. We'll look at the curricula that we have that when I got started with Literacy Minnesota many years ago, I actually started as a volunteer. And started teaching. I've taught everything. But when I started out, I was teaching intermediate and intermediate English language learners. And Literacy Minnesota uses we have developed curricula for volunteers to use. It's a 26-week curricula that goes through a variety of topics. And in the school I worked at, we would have a different volunteer every day for this class. So it had to be something that someone else could pick up from where you left off and continue on. And it was really easy to use. Learners were pretty engaged. It's a little out of date in terms of, like, there's a unit on, like writing a check, I think, which I don't know how many people write checks anymore, but maybe a lot of our learners do. And then there's also a career exploration unit that looks at, again, it was focused on jobs in the Twin Cities, but it was looking at jobs where you make over $15 an hour at the time, and that you don't need even a high school education for. And just kind of looking at vocabulary around those jobs, vocabulary and how to interview, kind of really basic things. As I said, the curriculum that we had created is a little bit, it's very useful and very easy to use, a little out of date. And we wanted to create something that was more along the lines of the CCRS. So we are, Literacy Minnesota is actually in the process of creating new curriculum that's very CCRS aligned very well with CCRS. And that will be coming out this fall. And kind of a precursor to that was we did a phonics book, 2 books actually. That is the first workbook that's really intended for phonics with adults. Most of the phonics materials are for kids. And so I'm going to show you all of these, but these are some of the other resources we have. So the tutor tips, the best way to find those is in our filter by here. And if you filter by format and you pick tutor tips, again, you're going to come up with just a ton of different tips on things. They're usually quite short and they're, telling you how to do things or they're an activity. So lots of good stuff here. You can filter, you can do multiple filters. So you can filter by format, by topic if you wanted to go to, let's say, listening. You can filter by audience here, and then level would be who you're working with. And so you can kind of really set it to what would be pertinent to you. So you don't have to look through all 300. So here's some of those tutor tips. Again, all this is that I've mentioned so far is free. The other thing in the educator resources is, I was telling you about those remote tutoring resources here. So you can see that there's checklists for what you would want with Zoom, what you need to do on Zoom and Meet, and what you want to talk about. There's different video guides, onboarding templates, training, lesson plans, and materials. The one that I was talking about for the learners is here under Guides for Learners. And I'll just show you the one in English. But you can see it's very, again, not a lot of wording, a lot of pictures that kind of help you, that you can, maybe you go over this with your learner and then you give this to them, because oftentimes learners will forget from time to time on how to do things. And so it kind of goes through some of the basic buttons that they might use. And then it was available in those 5 languages that we often encounter here in the Twin Cities. And then here there are those lesson plans. And these aren't necessarily from Literacy Minnesota. These are from various programs in the in Minnesota that have put in their, the work that they've done on lesson plans. This one here, this Morgan's ESL Studio, these are created by one of our staff people. And she did this great thing where she took aspects of our written curriculum and adapted it for use for one-on-one tutoring. So the tutors will show her video and then she'll have recommendations of what to discuss about the video with their learners. So the videos are short. The learner and, you're doing this remotely, the learner and the tutor will watch it together, and then they'll have conversation about it or talk about various aspects of it. And I have heard firsthand from students that these are very popular. They really, both the volunteers and the learners really like these. So there's some things for you there. Again, we're in our Educator Resources Library. If you want to find the curriculum, the best way to find that is go by topic and, by format and pick curriculum. And then these are those again, 26-week, 4 days a week curriculums. We also have some kind of specific things on civic engagement, emergency readiness. We have some on, we have GED as well as ELL. But for an example, here are the units in this intermediate curriculum. So you can see it tells you how many weeks there are, borrowing and saving, community, food, all down the line of the different topics that it's addressing. And then you can download it. But again, having started out as a volunteer and using this, it was very easy for me as a volunteer to come in. I didn't have to do a lot of prep work or none. And the students were engaged with it. I, as the instructor, was engaged with it. So I personally recommend it as a great way to go if you are looking for curriculum. And then I want to show you. So now these phonics workbooks you do have to purchase, and they just recently came out. But there's 2 workbooks, and they're each $30. And so workbook 1 is, the first half of the alphabet. Workbook 2 is the second half of the alphabet. And I got to edit this, or part of it anyway. And I myself didn't use it with students. I know that some of my colleagues did, but I think it's really, personally, I think it is really exciting because it uses a lot of your senses, a lot of the students' senses as they're going through it. So just to kind of give you an example, it goes through, you introduce the letter and the sound. Actually, I want to show you, this is telling you how to do it, but I want to show you the actual lesson plan. Maybe that wasn't in here. So anyway, it tells you, you introduce the letter, the sound, you talk about how to say it, you talk about the picture that goes along with it, you do a lot of repetition. And then at some point you have them write the letter. So they practice writing the letter, use this concept of a house, and where you say it goes into the roof or to the basement. And then they often will also trace the letter. So they get, again, that kind of active learning where they're actually doing something. You can do it either just on the paper, you can use sandpaper to have it be more tactile. And so then you, if you want to expand it for more advanced learners, you can have them practice writing words that begin with that, other words that begin with that letter. And so then you start doing kind of listening about the words, or you read words and they have to listen for that sound. And there's just a variety of different activities. So it's, as I was editing this, I'm like, wow, I really want to teach this. So again, there is a price for this, $30 for each workbook. But you can try, you could even download this sample and try the S letter and see how your students like it before you actually purchase it. So that is, those are the things that are available on our Literacy Minnesota website. And again, just to make sure you know where things are, if we go to our homepage, you'd start out at literacyminnesota.org, just going there. You get to this literacy is. For the live webinars, you would go to our services and then trainings and workshops, scroll down to the upcoming trainings, and then that's where they would be. And then for everything else, they're under these educator resources, this first one, educator resources library. And then they are all here, and you can use these filters to find things more easily. We have a little bit of time left. I just want to touch on some of the other resources Literacy Minnesota has. So we do provide Northstar Digital Literacy. This is basically used throughout the country and in other countries. We've been providing Northstar for about 10 years now. And it's really focused on, if you don't know, it's focused on these basic foundational computer skills. And it provides assessments in 14 topic areas, and then curriculum, instructor-led curriculum, and self-directed online learning. So this was started during the what am I saying? The Great Recession. And our local library was seeing a lot of people coming in who wanted computer classes, but their level of skills just varied so greatly that the library is having a hard time really providing meaningful classes, because some people would be fairly advanced and just need some tweaking on their computer skills, and some people didn't know how to use a mouse. And so they didn't feel that they were helping their patrons very well by having all these people in the same class. And they asked us if we could create some assessments to help determine where people were at in digital literacy. And we had many experts on staff, and we were connected with experts around the country. So we brought those experts together, and they kind of looked at, here are the topic areas that we feel are important for basic digital literacy, and then created standards for those. So the standards really say, these are the skills that you need. And then once they develop the standards, then they could create the assessments. So what was I going to say? Well, when we wrote it, because we ourselves teach adult basic literacy, we wanted to make this as accessible to our own students as possible. And so when we're looking at how to describe digital literacy easily, so it could be done without a lot of the assessments could be done without a lot of support, we felt that we could write them at an intermediate ESL level to get those across. So thinking like a CASAS 211, if you're familiar with that, kind of a 4th grade reading level, to make it as accessible to as many people as we could. And then we also put it on the internet. So again, you don't have to have the software, you can just access it on the internet. We thought initially it would be used only by the St. Paul Public Libraries, and we were really amazed when it went national fairly quickly. And that's really because there's just nothing else out there for this low digital literacy level, skills level, and kind of a lower reading level. So there is, when we first made it, we had it free on the website. There still is a free version that I'll tell you about. Also, when we saw how much need there was, we felt that this was something that was worth maintaining. And as you know, the digital literacy landscape is constantly changing. So we wanted to be able to keep up with that. And so in order to do that, we felt we had to dedicate actual staff to doing that. So we have a subscription model as well, which is an annual subscription, fairly low cost, that allows us to kind of maintain that. But like I said, you can also use the free version. To kind of just give you a real brief overview of what Northstar is. Northstar has 14 assessments, and I'll show you those in a minute. If you do have the subscription version, you can proctor these assessments, which means you're making sure that the person taking them is who they say they are. You're making sure they're not using outside materials or someone else's help. And you can do that proctoring remotely or in person. And then if someone does pass the assessment, they can get a certificate. And the certificates are valuable in terms of helping people get jobs. Many organizations say that, especially if you have someone who has been out of the workforce for a long time, or maybe hasn't worked in this country, or who is switching from more manual labor to more kind of desk labor, oftentimes having these certificates can really help have, on their resume and as they talk to employers in an interview. And because also the assessments are objective. So it's not someone just saying, I'm great at Word. It's actually saying I've passed this assessment. More importantly, though, the certificates really give people that confidence that they are often lacking. If people are, low digital literacy skills, if they don't know how to use a mouse, if they don't know how to search the internet, they're often very intimidated by the computer and afraid they're going to break it. They're afraid that they're going to wipe out all the information. So having the certificate proves to them that they know what they're doing. So I've had people who will start crying when they get the certificate because it was, so meaningful to them. I've had people who will give me high fives. People will print them out and frame them and put them up on their walls. So it is a very meaningful, and it often helps them persist in the other learning that they're doing, more long-term learning, like getting a GED or learning English, which are, much longer term, I was going to say endeavors. And Northstar is a much shorter win. So you get that feeling of accomplishment and of that you have the agency to do things. And then that helps you in persisting in these other longer term educational endeavors. Let me show you these assessments. So the assessments you can all take for free. And even if you don't use this with your students, I would highly recommend that you all do it. Most of us who do feel digitally literate taught ourselves a lot of these skills. And so we often have gaps, or maybe we do things in a way that's not as quickly as we could do them. So the assessments are just fun for you to take. They take maybe 10 minutes each to take, and they can let you see where you might have gaps in your learning. They also, I will say that I have never met anyone who's passed them all with 100%. So even IT people don't get 100% on all of them. So don't feel bad if you don't. Digital literacy is lifelong learning. And so there's always something we can be better at. There's a question in the chat about if our organization is affiliated with any public library. So Literacy in Minnesota is not. We're a standalone organization. Northstar is used, so many of our subscribers are public libraries. And at this point, we are seeing whole state systems purchase Northstar for their libraries. So for example, I'm trying to think, I know that like the state of Washington, state of North Carolina, state of South Carolina, Maryland, Tennessee, all these kind of state library systems are purchasing Northstar for all of their public libraries. So for those of you who are in adult basic education, I strongly suggest partnering with your libraries, because oftentimes the libraries themselves may not want to provide the classes that you all can provide. So sometimes people will get, the libraries will offer Northstar assessments. People will take them, figure out what they need to know. And then I have seen, like in Delaware, for example, the libraries are partnering with ABE to send those people who are interested in the classes to the ABE programs. So it's a really great opportunity for a partnership between libraries and adult basic education. So as far as the assessments go, here's that Northstar homepage, the digitalliteracyassessment.org. And if you scroll down a bit, in the green oval, you see take an assessment. And then it leads you to all of our 14 assessments. So you know one, and you can direct your students to this as well. If you were to click on one of these, it would take you right to the assessment. I would say students, it usually takes maybe 20 to 25 minutes to take one. You might take more like 5 to 10. If you use the free version, you'll get a results page that will tell you how you did, if you passed or not. There will be no record of it in our system. You would need to subscribe for that, but you can still print out the results page, or your student can, or you can for your student, just to see how you're doing. So you can see the 14 assessments are kind of broken into 3 different categories. Essential computer skills, these first 3, the basic computer skills, internet basics, and using email, are by far the most frequently given. And that's because, you know, many organizations and Northstar feel that these are really the building blocks of digital literacy. And if you don't have these skills, you're not going to be able to do very much in digital literacy. So if you know, that's where I would start, but you don't have to. If someone comes to you, one of your students is saying, I just want to get better at Excel, they could go right to that assessment and see, you know, what they know and what they still need to learn. Most of these are self-explanatory. Information literacy would be that idea of kind of advanced searching. So not how to use the internet, but how to search effectively so that you're getting results that pertain to your actual, what you are looking for, and to determine if websites are, you know, valid or not. Supporting K-12 distance learning is something that was created for the pandemic. And this is because so many parents were having to help their kids online, and many didn't know how to do that. However, it can also be used with your own adult students who themselves might be learning online on distance learning platforms. So it looks at 3 of the more common platforms: Blackboard, Canvas, and Schoology, and kind of makes a generic version of those and talks about how to upload assignments, how to look at your schedule, how to talk to your teacher through those platforms, as well as kind of best practices for remote learning. So, you know, trying to have a quiet environment, hopefully in a room with no one else, just various things like that. Career search skills, it's what it sounds like. And then your digital footprint is that idea that whatever you do online, you are leaving traces, and you want to make sure you know the traces you're leaving and that they're what you want to be leaving. So these are the assessments. And again, this is all free. In the subscription version, the difference in the assessment piece is that you can proctor assessments and you can award the certificates, and that information is then tied back, you know, is kept at your site so you can see how your students are doing. The instructor-led curricula was developed because after several years, many organizations said, this is great, I know what my students know and what they need to know, but I don't have research, you know, instructor time or knowledge or resources to develop curriculum. Can you, Literacy Minnesota Northstar, do this? And as you have seen, Literacy Minnesota has developed curriculum around adult learning for a long time. And so we thought this was a great fit. And this curricula, so this would mostly only be available through the subscription, but there is one that you can use for free, and I'll show you where that is. They're really easy to use. I got to teach an internet basics class before the pandemic began, and I'd say maybe each lesson took me, I don't know, 15 minutes of prep time. Every lesson is the same, you know, lined up the same, so you know what to expect as an instructor. It gives you the words to actually say to your students, so you are not having to come up with that yourself, and it maintains consistency. So they are really great to use. And the one that we have for free is on that K-12 distance learning, and you can find that on our site. If you go up to this kind of green ribbon here at the top above the Learn It, Know It, Show It, and if you click on the info on remote proctoring and resources, then you can see here this first one is that curriculum. And so this gives you an idea, well, you can use this curriculum, and also gives you an idea what the other ones all look like. We also had many organizations then, after we made the curricula, say, oh, you know what, I'm a library, I only have 2 computers, I only have half a staff, you know, half-time staff person. Can you make something that's more self-directed? And we thought that was a great idea too. So we now have these self-directed online learning, which they're about 90 minutes each. And they go through instruction, like a piece on instruction, and then they'll have a practice piece, because it's very hard to learn digital literacy if you're not doing it. It's very hard to learn it through lecture. And on the free version, we actually have 6 of these completed as of today, of the 14. On the free version, 4 of those are available. And honestly, we hadn't planned to make any available, but when the pandemic hit, we felt that it was just the right thing to do to offer some of these for free, just because we were seeing, people obviously needing to use their digital literacy skills. I see that Jennifer asked about the curriculum, if it's printable, because your students can't be on computers and perhaps you're in a prison system or something, but the curriculum is, yes, it's a PDF and you can print it out. It would be hard to do some of it without computers because, honestly, the curriculum does have them practicing a lot. But I have heard of people in various situations or even other countries where they'll make a make a mock computer screen, like on the board, and then they'll have people like touch where they should, come up to the board and touch the places where they should touch them. So the self-directed learning, like I said, there are the 4 free versions. I'll show you where that is. The main difference there is that, well, not all of them are free. And also on the free version, you have to go through the entire module or you lose your place. So if you only do, half an hour out of the 90 minutes, when you come back to it, you have to start at the beginning again. Whereas in the subscription model, you can, it will save your place. So you can even do 10 minutes, come back the next day and do 10 more minutes, and it will save your place. And the learners themselves have a dashboard to track, as well as the teachers to track what's been done. So let me show you where those are in the free version. So again, we're back here at our homepage. And if you go to the Build Your Skills part and see more, in the second one, here are the 4 that we have available. So the basic computer skills, the email, Microsoft Word, and career search skills. And again, we chose basic computer skills because we felt that might be something, everyone would need in this pandemic. And then the other 3 were more job related. So email, so you can get emails from potential employers, Word for resume creation. It tells you a lot about Word, but you can use it for resume creation, and then career search skills. Yeah, I know, Jennifer, that a lot of prison systems do use Northstar, and it is tricky because obviously it's web-based, and the people you're working with don't always have access to that or to computers. Then the last piece of Northstar that you would have in the subscription model would be reports that show you, what your site is doing and what your students are doing, to help to show how you're using it, and to kind of help inform you as to where you should put your instructional time and effort. I should say that Northstar is paid for by organizations like school, like ABE schools or libraries. Never would the individual have to pay for Northstar. So any learner, it's always free to the learners. And I think I won't go through this right now, but what I want to talk, the last piece I want to talk to you about that's available through Literacy Minnesota is our Open Door Collective program. And this is a nationwide program of volunteers and was started many years ago. And the mission is to decrease poverty through literacy. And the 3 founders were feeling that there's a lot of barriers, as we all know, to our students coming into classes. And a lot of times these are almost always related to issues around poverty. And so they felt that it was essential for us for adult basic education to partner with other sectors like healthcare, libraries, elder care, labor, variety of other sectors who have similar missions and serve similar populations, because and then use kind of the force of the Open Door Collective to advocate for for more funding, for more research around literacy and best practices, and for legislation changes. And then the more partners from different sectors we have, the more viable our requests are, right? So these are all individual volunteers. You can join if you want, it's free. But as far as resources that I wanted to tell you about, we do frequently do webinars that anyone is invited to, but then we record those and they're available on the website, which is down at the bottom and I think was just put in the chat. So some of the webinars that are on there, and they tend to be higher level, but there's one about looking at all this data from PIAC and how it's tying it to actual funding. So how, if you put dollars into literacy, how that really actually saves the country money in the end, which is fascinating, I think, to listen to that webinar. There's one that our organization just did, our executive director did, about how we've used some of that CARES Act and ARP funding, and through partnering, how we've managed to get some of that funding. And then the last one we did was a few weeks ago, and it's looking at digital literacy across a more local system, a state system, and then nationally. So just kind of fascinating topics. And then there are many issues papers around those different partnering and how they work with literacy groups. So I'll show you what that looks like on this website. The website is Open Door Collective. And as I said, it's a program of Literacy Minnesota. And if you come down here on the left-hand side, you can see these recent webinars here. In the middle, this is talking about that first one I discussed about the that open door out of poverty and looking at the data and how adult education actually ends up saving, the country money. And then if you go to at the top, the papers here, you can see many different topics related to literacy. So I believe we're at the end of our time, and I think I'm at the end of what I wanted to tell you, so good timing. But any last minute thoughts or questions before we say goodbye? I hope this has been helpful in showing you just a lot of the resources that are out there. Again, almost all of them free. And I really encourage you to use them and share them. Yeah, I think, we love to hear of oftentimes we'll go to COABE or whatever, and people will come up and say, hey, I've downloaded your resources. And it's great to hear that not only is it helping our program, but helping people around the country. Okay. Well, thank you all for coming. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week, and feel free to use those resources. If you end up ever having a question about anything, you can, I'll put my address, my email address in the chat.
Thank you for attending and participating, and we hope you have a great rest of your day.
All right. Goodbye, everyone.